I'm going to call this meeting of the Community Housing Board to order. All right. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody for being flexible on the timing. We're not having it tomorrow night. And if you're free, CAST, Last for CAST, an excellent nonprofit, supports lots of work on the North Fork. Something to think about. It's also where I'll be. So, okay. So the first thing that we want to do is review the minutes that Jessica so kindly sent out. So everybody just take a moment. Our usual motion maker isn't here.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, let's do it. Great. Okay, I've got a quick fund update. We had about $48,000 in contributions, which brings our total balance to 463. So we're doing good. I'll post this, I just kind of got this, but just to give us a sense of where we are. So that's exciting.
Liz, how are those funds invested? Are they put in some sort of CD or treasury or something?
Yeah, we put them in a high yield account.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's a great question. So I think that basically, I think once we get a little bit further in on that what we're talking about today, we'll probably determine if we're gonna touch any of it. And then potentially we could, we could see what the options were for getting a better yield on it. I think we're at like 5.2 or something, average yield. So, not nothing, but
That doubled the deposit from last month.
yeah, we did. Yeah, we had one big deposit of almost 45,000 for closing. So a big, I remember Peter saying that there was going to be a big deposit.
Right.
And there it is.
Yeah,
That's
it is.
0.5%. So you can reverse math that.
Yeah.
Crazy time. Crazy times, wild and crazy times. All right.
What's the deposit?
What's that?
How much was the deposit?
The deposit was 48,000 and change for the month. Yeah.
I think he meant the big one.
Oh, the singular deposit, again, I don't have, but I was was 44,000.
Wow, not bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
$500,000 over the year.
Yeah, we're getting there.
It's
So-
a house. No need for affordable housing on Shelter Island.
Yeah. Let's go to the ADU +1 program update. Peter and I did a call with CDCLI on the 26th. So I do have some update. So I'll just give you like the numbers. We have 5 that are in the construction stage, like either in construction or ready to begin construction. We have 4 that are in like the pre-design stage, so they're just finishing their design. So that's basically we've got 9 that are quite far along. We have another, so we did this in waves. So we have another 9 behind them that are deemed eligible and about to go into design. So just to keep the numbers, we're now at 18. We have We have another 4 that are just in the stage right before that. So they're just basically, they are eligible as people, right? And so we're just determining that their design is eligible and basically can pass zoning. We have another 2 in eligibility review, which is pretty far along. So that total is to 24. And then we have, after that, we have another 9 that are already in interest. So were all of those to go through, that would be at 33. Of course, we have 28 grants, but we know that sometimes we find that like, oh, they're not exactly eligible, or the zoning doesn't work, or they're not, like there's some, so some of them shake out. So CDCLI has asked, hey, do we want to do another outreach? And so we are talking about potentially doing another like mailing and ad, but maybe towards the end of the summer, just so that we can see what shakes out with this because we had the kind of, because we had closed applications, and then we kind of opened them, so then we had this like kind of built up. So we want to make sure we get through those before we solicit any more, and also just make sure that we have more room.
Yeah, I don't think there's any rush
Yeah, there's no rush.
to do it.
But we do seem to have, we got a lot of people.
Yeah,
If you fill it up as quickly as it seems to be filling up, is there any more money in Albany that you can put your?
So I'm so glad you asked, David. Yes, there is more money in Albany, and I will be up there getting it.
So the rush is, the quicker we fill it up, the quicker we can get our admits on.
Exactly, but so I also don't want, the other thing that's really important though, is I just also want to make sure that our applicants and our residents are having a good experience, and that we're doing a good job through the process. So we want to really balance those 2 things of, obviously, I would love to get this spoken for as soon as we can, but I also want to make sure that it's happening the right way. But I feel like CDCLI's got that under control, and they've been working with the town social worker for some of the applications to get them through. So I feel like it's going better, but I think I would not be surprised if this fall we were talking about going back again. I'm not saying that we're going to, I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised.
That would be nice.
Yeah. Which I love for us.
The person I would contacted, is that resolved?
I will tell you that I have probably talked to no less than like 14 people, so I don't remember specifically.
Okay, I don't think we should use the name in public. so-
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I've talked to
Yeah.
a lot of people
Yeah,
about
okay.
their applications, so. Great. Oh, okay, so I'm going to just move on. I'm trying to get through it because I know we've got a lot to go over with the RFPs. I'm trying to just run through this. The zoning update. So we are waiting for the surveys to be approved so that we can start them. I think they are scheduled for the Monday
Good.
meeting. So, hopefully that'll happen. Because then, then we're probably 2 to 3 weeks out, well, then they have to start them. So we're probably like a month behind on that one, just with the approval, but hopefully by the time we meet next time, there's a possibility that they will be in progress. They should be in progress or being written up, is my dream.
right. Alongside that, we have the plans for the side hustle house. We purchased those.
I believe the invoice came through. I don't know if it's
I
been.
have. We have.
Oh.
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you so
So-
much, Brant.
Once we get those.
Yeah. No, everything's kind of,
Surveys, yeah, once we
Yeah.
get the surveys, we can reach back out to the architects, give them the surveys, they can do the site plans.
yeah.
And
And-
then we'll sort of have all of our,
Yeah, well, we'll have that part together, which will be great because we can put it in with the RFP. So we're a little backed up on that, but, and then I can also give them to our zoning lawyer so we can start that process, because he's engaged, but we just haven't been able to get that,
Send him stuff. Yeah.
send him stuff to get going. So we'll get there. Oh, actually, and this, I put you on, Amber. I wanted to check in about, we had talked about last time about doing the resolution for the pro-housing community. And so I was just wondering,
Yes, I talked to the state and there are two ways to get started with that. One is a resolution. It has to be adopted exactly as they worded it.
got it?
Not
Yeah.
100% sure whether or not the current town board and the community will be happy with some of the language.
Okay,
Just because it's pro-housing communities pledge, which will have us endeavor to take the following important steps. One, streamlining permitting for multifamily housing, affordable housing, accessory dwelling units, and supportive housing. Two, adopting policies that affirmatively further fair housing. Three, incorporating regional housing needs into planning decisions. Four, increasing development capacity for residential uses. Five, enacting policies that encourage a broad range of housing development, including multifamily housing, affordable housing, accessory dwelling units, and supportive housing. So there is some wording in there that I feel like at least some part of the community may object to, especially the, incorporating regional housing needs. We always, there's
Yeah.
been historically pushback on that. However, that's not the only path to becoming certified as a pro-housing community.
yeah, there's the growth base, but do you think
Yes.
that we would meet the?
We might, because we have total housing stock of about 2,700. So if we have permits increasing housing stock, and they did confirm that ADUs are qualify for that by 1% in the past year or 3% over 3 years.
Right,
So there's a couple of steps, and they're going to get back to me with somebody who can give me exactly what goes into the numerator and the denominator to make sure we got it covered correctly.
so maybe the ADU push will be able to qualify us?
Yes. So there's just a little bit more work that I need to do before
Got it,
figuring out which path we're going to go down.
cool. All right, well, thank you for the update.
Liz, can you remind me, is there a financial benefit to this? Do we get more money if we do this?
I'm so glad that you asked that question, Ben, because it is absolutely about money, because it's always about money. It prioritizes us on funding for just like a variety. There's about six, what is it? Yeah, I have it here. So there's like the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, New York Forward, Regional Council Capital Funds, Long Island Investment Fund, and the New York Main Street Fund. So there's a couple other ones, but those were the ones that seemed most applicable to Shelter Island. And so those are things that could help with housing. And then I think also very interestingly, I know that there's been talk of like thinking about how to think about just the center area. And that it, I think the community has really expressed that we feel like that they feel that it would be a great place to put housing, like especially community housing. And so there is some funding here that might be available for that. So it's not an emergency, but it would be cool to be able to consider those funding sources as we kind of look to whatever's next for the center and like what our next community housing plan that for the next 5 years would be to be able to have those resources.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's interesting. I mean, because, there are few people who are more pro-community housing than me, so, but Amber does make a good point that some of that language is a little problematic, but well, I guess we have to figure out what the real implications of it is. I mean.
well, I
language-
think,
language.
yeah, sorry.
No, I'm just saying language can just be language. And
Mhm.
helps you get closer to your goal without, forcing a change in the character of your community. It may not be the end of the world.
Yeah, and I think that there is also especially with like the update that we gave on the ADUs, you know, depending if it's felt that the resolution isn't appropriate for the town, it does, you know, I would be interested to kind of figuring out the growth-based qualification, because, you know, perhaps there's a potential a couple quarters in that just by virtue of the work that we're doing on ADUs, we could qualify.
Okay, right.
I want us to keep it in the mix, because it would be, who wants to leave money on the table, especially when we have so much to do.
100%. It should not be off the table by any means. And we'll see where we go with it. I mean, it may be just fine.
Yeah,
And it may be something that we'll be willing to damn the torpedoes.
And also the numerator does include just regular residential house builds. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be affordable housing.
yeah,
They're just looking at growth.
yes, yeah,
We should make that then.
That's the thinking. And that way we don't have to put out language that people
That-
object to. It keeps us eligible for funding if we choose to go.
yeah. Cool. Well, maybe I'll just look forward to whatever. Sounds like you're in the mix, so that's cool.
Before we go to the
So-
RFP,
Yeah,
one request for the future.
yeah,
When we do the fund update,
uh-huh,
can we also do what we have spent out of the fund to pay for some of these administrative expenses?
sure,
I think that would be helpful so that we keep track year to date of,
absolutely,
for the attorneys, et cetera, that we're spending money on.
sure, yeah, no problem. I can do an update for next time of what our expenditures have been to date. I believe it's only, I think it's,
I'm just trying to do my fiduciary duty.
no, yeah, absolutely. I believe it's just the retainers for the two lawyers,
Right.
so.
And we have some other, we have the surveys, we have some other, the plans. It was when Brent mentioned the plans, that's when I thought of it.
Yeah, well, there's
Yeah,
some
we-
stuff that we do have, anyway, we can kind of, the big tickets are the
Yeah,
lawyers, because yeah.
because they're lawyers.
Because they're lawyers. Okay,
Give me just a second to see.
Yeah.
If you want to circle back.
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the plans were $700. I think the surveys were around $2 or $3 grand each. I don't know what we went
Yeah.
with, but all the quotes
That's-
were around $3 grand.
Yeah.
I think everything has come out of the operating budgets so far.
Yeah, that was my thought, because we
Yeah, I don't
hadn't
think we-
spent any of our,
Going into the
we hadn't
fund.
spent any of our budget, so we hadn't, I don't know. I want to say the zoning lawyer we dipped in, because he had a bigger retainer. But, you know, I can look it up.
We've taken 9,000 through the end of June out of the community housing fund for
Yeah.
retainers.
Yeah, it's because we didn't have room for all that legal in our regular. But I'm glad that we have them, and I think it's a good idea. Okay. Are you ready for the RFP? So how do we want to do this? Do we want to read through it? Do we want to go by sections and give notes? Anybody have a feeling?
One thing whatever we do, we still need to go back and spend a little time reading it separate from this meeting where we can think too.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
And I liked what you sent out
Yeah.
about don't send it in
You know what,
as marks on a PDF. Let's type up our notes and send them.
yes, please. Yes, please. Just
That'll make
because,
it a lot easier.
well, just because then I have to
Conversation.
transcribe everybody's chicken scratches into one thing. And what I realize is, I don't have the time to do it, and sometimes I can't read people's handwriting, and I don't know exactly what they mean, and I also I understand, and I will tell you that that is how I do it, but then I have to write up my notes so that I know what I mean, so that I can tell the lawyer, so I am gonna ask all of us to do
Yep.
the same.
Liz,
Just
was this
because-
written by a lawyer?
Pardon?
Was this written by the lawyer?
Yes.
Um,
All right,
I mean,
how about this,
my suggestion would be that, I mean, it's in Word, right? Can't we just send the.
yeah, you can send
So
marked up
you-
Word, you can send marked up Word.
Word to the lawyer, and then either, we can discuss whether we're gonna incorporate changes or not, and.
I'm 100%
master.
totally- David, I'm super into that. It's just the handwritten on the scan notes that like, I can't do everybody's, which then that's what I have been doing. And I'm just like, I just have to be like, no more wire hangers at this point. I just like, I can't do it. I can't do it. You can put it in a Word doc and put your edits in, or you can email me, but like, you gotta type it.
I guess my question is, you sent out a Word doc, with it. Does anybody not have Word and know how to do review and track changes to make, their edits? And you can also add comments too
Yeah,
in it, so.
yeah, no, that's
That seems like
totally.
the most efficient way to do it.
Yeah, I guess you can do it that way. You can type, you can do whatever, but no handwritten scans. I'm just gonna assume that you don't want me to incorporate your feedback if you send me a scan of your handwritten notes.
That's fair
Sounds
enough.
good.
Cool.
My only suggestion would be, since, I mean, I found it fairly confusing and not, almost like somebody put 5 RFPs together and taped it.
You know what I realized, David, you did your markups on her red line document, and if you saw, there was a second document that was just a straight document.
Oh, I apologize.
No, it was totally fine. I was just like, oh, he likes a challenge. Like, I love this for him. I thought you wanted to like see all the history of changes, but
No, I was just gonna suggest keep, at this stage, to the high level questions, and as we get closer to the finish line, worry about the commas and, the
Yeah.
specifics.
I agree. So I'm gonna go through the first paragraph. I can just read aloud these parts, especially for the first, and we can skip stuff that's like, this is the email, blah, 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 right? And we will get this posted on the Community Housing Board website. We just got it from the lawyer yesterday. So that's why it's not up, but it will go. All right. So just interrupt me if you feel that you have a note. So Shelter Island Community Housing Board request for proposals. Shelter Island Community Housing Board, the Housing Board invites submission of proposal from firms interested in performing inclusive development services for the construction, leasing, and management of a minimum of 10 residential units at 3 different locations on Shelter Island, to wit, 16 Manwaring Road, 1 acre, 69 North Ferry Road, 1 acre, 12 South Ferry Road, 4 acres, collectively the subject properties, with a unit mix of 6 one-bedroom and 4 two-bedroom units. Specifically, the unit mix is South Ferry 6 one-bedroom units under 600 square feet. Again, there's some grammar that needs to be cleaned up in here, but right now we're just, is the big stuff. And the Manwaring and North Ferry, 2 two-bedroom units per lot. We will provide the plans and preliminary site designs. And David, I had your note, if you have the following qualifications.
Well,
And-
I just had one question before that. So the
Yes.
under 600 square feet, what?
That's determined by the Suffolk health guidelines. We basically can,
Should we put a, not less than X, but not more than 600?
Well, we're providing the plans, so
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
it's just that
Gotcha.
those are under 600, the other 2 bedrooms are about a little over 1,000. I don't know if we need to specify that or that we need to even specify it here.
I think the only thing we were specifying it because, if for some reason the 2-bedroom ones, I don't know, that the developer fell away and wanted to put a porch or knock out, you know what I mean? Like there's a little bit of give there with the 2 bedrooms, like, but there's no give, like those 1 bedrooms must be under 600.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So for the bullet points, 1, demonstrated experience as a developer, builder, manager of affordable housing. 2, have demonstrated wherewithal to obtain a payment and performance bond for the scope of services set forth herein and a demonstrated ability to fund the construction and development of the subject properties in accordance with the RFP. 3, have experience and working knowledge of all applicable federal, state, county, and local laws, policies, and procedures governing the development, construction, leasing, and management of affordable housing rental units. Then you are invited to submit a proposal in response to this RFP. Yeah.
I know you've talked to somebody, and I couldn't remember if it was a state or county grant potentially of $200,000. Whether or not they have any MWBE requirements, and I was one of the ones that gave you a PDF with the scratch notes that will probably go
Yeah.
to me. That's the Minority Women Business.
Yes, so the reason that we haven't put this in is because they're not required to take that county funding. And so we've included mention of that later on. And we can, so basically because we can, it's like the county is kind of holding that money for us, but the developer doesn't have to take it. So they're not obligated to meet those conditions. But how Miriam, the lawyer, and I were kind of talking about it, was mentioning it later on and saying, if you're interested, we can put you in contact and you can learn about the specifics that, because that could be a further limitation, but only if you were interested in that funding source, which I'm sure they are, but is separate, right? Because like you could do it without it and you don't have to do any of that stuff. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you're gonna do it without that money, but like,
Unlikely.
but God bless you if you can, like. All right, the next section. Each proposal shall specify and make clear how the offer will meet, achieve, and accomplish the above criteria and goals set forth in the RFP. In addition, each proposal should specify in detail how the offer will comply with the requirements set forth in the RFP. If you choose to deviate from the design or plans or preliminary site plan provided, please bid on both your plans and the design specifications that are included with the RFP. I had a note here, which was to go back to her, and because of, I forget what the law is, that you can't do design build, to see if we could even include that language, because I thought that my understanding is how we ended up in this pickle was that the design had to be specified. So that was that was like a question mark that I had for the lawyer on that part of just like, can we even say that? So.
Wait,
But
so
I think that gets in the, oh, sorry.
No, I'm just curious. I'm just a little confused. There's a requirement that under whatever scheme we're dealing with, that the plans we put forward have to be the plans?
Well, okay, so the legal requirement that we are having to satisfy is that you cannot put an RFP out that includes both design and build. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not gonna explain this exactly the right way, but it can't have design and build, and that the design process must be, and my understanding was, in essence, settled before you put out for any RFP that includes the building portion. So that's like the piece of it. I was like, since that piece of it has caused us so much trouble, I just want to make sure that, is that okay to say it?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah,
Understood.
I have PTSD.
I mean, I personally think that it just muddies the waters to have somebody submitting a proposal for a design that's not part of what we're talking about. Yeah, I mean, and I understand the design build separation. If we wanted to bid out the design and have an RFP for that, that would be one thing. But, to have 3, 5, however many people are going to bid on the construction of this thing that we have to evaluate. I don't know how having them submit an alternate design could factor into this.
I mean,
Mark, I mean, from prior conversation, my understanding is that if the builder wants to slightly tweak because they think something could be done somewhat slightly better, they're allowed to submit a tweak, but I'm not positive of that.
well, I think that, let's find out, can we even put this in? And then if we find out we can put this in, let's find out if we want to put it in. How about that?
Fair enough.
Yeah,
That's
agreed.
good.
All right, let's find out like plausible, like possible, and then should we? But I will mark that and definitely go to Miriam with that.
And not to belabor this point or make this conversation even
Yeah.
longer. I mean, we've all built stuff and we all know that, what you end up building in the end is never exactly what's in the plans.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
What's the mechanism to change it as we go? Or at least we should think about it or figure it out. We don't have to
Well, we
talk.
can, there's some stuff that kind of we'll cover a little bit later in the RFP, and so maybe we can talk about if we feel like that's sufficient.
Okay.
All right, okay. Does anybody else have a feeling, thought, or move on?
Yeah, no, I don't know what the mechanism is, but
I think that's a good one.
Yeah.
Like how to like change orders.
We had a little conversation about the tweaking with Miriam, but I don't think we ever resolved this.
Well, let's go on. We're only
Yeah.
on the first page. We have 10 pages to go and see if our questions are answered. I don't know. Going crazy. If you choose to bid with another organization with a different skill sets, e.g. a different separate management team, all the requirements set forth herein must also be met by all the organization's parts of your group. That's weird wording, but sure.
I can understand it.
You've taken over my screen.
Oh.
Is that okay? I mean, was that the purpose? Because we're not even on the paragraph that we're talking about.
She's gonna scroll down.
Yes, okay.
I think it's we're on the first page.
We're still on the first page. We're on like
I
the,
know, but you're showing the top of the first page and we're talking about the bottom of the first page.
Okay, you know what's happening is, what we're seeing on our video, you're seeing scroll down, but on the Zoom, it's not scrolling. Oh. So you have to shut it and go back in again. Okay.
I'm
okay,
following,
I'm gonna,
downloaded it, I'm following along on my own, so don't worry.
okay.
Yeah, it's more for like Pam, and Gordon who are here, watching this, and also when it gets, put on YouTube, then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Follow.
Do you want me to, we can just pause.
No, keep going.
Okay, I'm gonna do the boring part next.
Yay.
1, original 7 copies of the proposal must be received no later than 3 p.m. on when, we don't know. The date and time referred to as the proposal date. Proposals will be opened at that time. However, the proposals will not be read publicly or otherwise made public. The Housing Board will publicly announce at that time the names of each offer who has submitted a proposal. The proposal should be addressed to Housing Board, blah, 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 our address. Any questions pertaining this RFP should be submitted in writing, addressed to the Community Housing Board, our address again. Attention me, good luck me, and receive no later than noon at X date.
Should we,
Benjamin, can you see look right on Zoom?
No,
I downloaded it and I'm following along on my own. Hold on, let me go back to the Zoom.
I'll get it fixed.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gone now.
All right, sorry Pam, we're working on it. Note, a mandatory pre-proposal conference and walkthrough will be held on whatever date, we don't know, at the following location, blah, blah, blah. The parties interested in submitting a proposal should request a copy of the RFP from the Housing Board during normal business hours, or by email. Should we put on the website? I don't know, is that normal? Just to like, or do you have to request it? That was like my only. I mean, I guess we will have it on the website anyway, because I think it'd be good for the public to see it. Copies of the written addenda will be issued no later than 7 days prior to the proposal date. All addenda shall become part of this RFP. Not totally sure what she means by that. I guess like.
No, if we modify the RFP
Right,
in response to questions or anything else, it becomes incorporated as part of it.
that's why we have lawyers on the board, thank you.
Yeah.
Offers assume the risk of method of dispatch chosen. And we won't be responsible for delays caused by delivery service, postmarking the due date. Proposals may not be delivered orally by fax or telecommunication or electronic means.
Say what?
That seems weird. Do you usually take RFPs by email? Is it a weird thing?
Usually RFPs are delivered responses to RFP are delivered hard copy in person.
Weird, okay.
I mean,
Cool.
That's Christian.
the world is evolving, but that was,
Yeah,
At least an official one.
right, the official government one
Okay.
is usually
great. Okay, I get to learn about all this. I was like, that's wild, man. Okay, cool.
I mean, it also specifies earlier in the RFP that 7 copies, original and 7 copies have to be, received no later than. So, I mean, it's not like they're gonna send 7 copies of the email or that we would accept that.
right.
Yeah, they're not normally accepted by electronic means, but given the fact we live in Shelter Island, shouldn't we add the PO box to the address in case somebody sends it by USPS overnight delivery?
Yeah,
Yes, definitely.
Good point.
that rural life. All right. Brown. The town of Shelter Island finds the provision of a variety of housing opportunities for community members across the economic spectrum to be key in maintaining a healthy, sustainable community. The widespread impacts of lack of affordable community housing are increasingly evident, and town participation is needed to provide new housing options and make existing housing accessible for local low and medium income residents. As a result of the housing crisis and the high cost of living for local individuals and families, longtime residents are forced to leave the area. Employers are having difficulty finding and retaining employees. Local volunteer emergency services face difficulties in recruitment. Traffic has increased as many who work in Shelter Island must commute from elsewhere. And residents of the town may be forced to live in illegal or substandard conditions. There was some language that David suggested that I thought was great. I just feel like there should be I agree that there should be something else here. And so he has suggested adding, it is the town's goal that the new housing development as described in this RFP will be a start in addressing the consequences of lack of housing opportunities for those on Shelter Island.
Nice.
I thought,
That was lovely and benign, yeah.
David, you're hired. All right. Project goals. It is the intention of the housing board So here's where there was definitely, I had questions. I know David had sent questions of, this is where we kind of get into what part is the town board and what part is the housing board. So I'm going to read through this paragraph and then let's come back and think about how we might deal with it, right? Okay, so I'm going to read it and then we can kind of go back. It is the intention of the housing board to act as the sponsor and that the town of Shelter Island retain fee interest in the subject properties and lease to the selected offerer the subject properties with restricted covenants and the right of reverter recorded against the subject properties to ensure the development and management of the subject properties pursuant to the goals and requirements set forth in the RFP. The lease will be for a period of 10 years. I think that's way too short. We can come back to that. Plus a period of construction running coterminous with the management agreement. A default under the management agreement will be immediately grounds for the acceleration of the lease. And so let's just stop there. There's two issues I feel like we need to outline. Is the housing board the sponsor? Is the town the sponsor? And we're the, like, how does that one work? And then
Definition of sponsor, I'm sorry that I don't know this. Is the definition of sponsor, is that something that's legislative at the county level, or?
I will just be absolutely totally real. I have to ask our lawyer. I don't know what she means by sponsor in this case. So I would say if there is a legal, depending on what the legal definition is, I'm not sure it's appropriate for the housing board to be the sponsor. If it's just like we're overseeing it.
I mean,
Cool.
I can bring some experience that may or may not be relevant. In the world of condo and co-op development, these sponsor is defined by state statute in New York. And certainly the housing board can't be the sponsor, that you would have to be the owner of the property. It would be the town of Shelter Island. But we need to figure out, is there a legal definition to sponsor? And I strongly believe that there is.
Great, so how about this? Easily figured out by just asking our lawyer. So that'll be, let's go back to her on that one.
And I mean, I'm making other notes for her,
Yeah.
but there's, regardless of whether there is a legal definition,
Mhm.
we should define it ourselves in the RFP. So that
It's clear.
it's clear, and then it's also clear in terms of the process of what the housing board has authority to do and what we do not have authority to do, and what the town board retains as authority. I know
So,
we discussed that before,
yeah, so.
but that's imperative.
So David had actually suggested some language in here. The community housing board, so he had suggested, and David, you tell me if I'm misquoting you, but basically switching out the town as the sponsor and putting in some language that says the community housing board will review and oversee compliance with these provisions and be the primary contact between the offerer and the town sponsor, to just kind of define what our role was in that. And I thought that that was some interesting language to consider. Basically, that we would be the contact, but they would be,
Oh, that's interesting.
Let me look at it.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean,
Like I said, I think there's a legal definition to this word sponsor in this context. We're not gonna be able to define it ourselves, but we need to reference the,
Well, I think, so let's, regardless of what the legal like, first of all, we do need to define it. But I think what's more important for our purposes is to define how we see the roles. So there's no way that the community housing board could be legally responsible. You know what I mean? Like, there's definitely like the legal responsibility and the ultimate decision-making should be with the elected officials. So however you legally word that, let's do that. But I think that the other thing that we want to figure out how we want to address is that every time the offerer has a question, they don't go directly to the town board. That my guess would be is it would come through the community housing board or something like that. So how do we want to?
Yeah, because you don't want it over bureaucratic so that you can't get anything accomplished.
Exactly, right? Because there might be some things that the community housing board, we would just be able to say, oh no, we have regulations on the books. We could point them towards things that we'd already decided without for them having to wait for a town board meeting to, I don't know, replace doorknobs or something like that, like, it feels like there should be a step in there. And so I would just encourage us all to think about what we feel like is appropriate legally and, fiscally and liability wise, and also operationally, what is going to make the most sense? Because we want to be conservative, like there is the point that like we are not elected officials. And so ultimately there's a space for these, this is just like I'm thinking about it, like for those big decisions should not be made by us. But then there's also the part of it operationally, the community housing board should be handling. There's some stuff that we could handle in committee, because what we don't want to do is have this overload the town board where they have to approve the minutia. Because ultimately, and why that's important is because there are going to be a lot of moving pieces, and it's really important, I think, because it's the first thing, one of these that we're doing, and also in general, right? Because we want to do it well, for it to be well managed. And so being able to be timely in our responses and be, nimble about some of the smaller stuff, I think will make the experience better for both the residents and the residents of these units, and also I just think it would be better, but my opinion. So I do think that there is some, the language in here needs to be thought out.
To just clarify a little of what you just said, part of it is language that is in here, but part of it isn't. Part of it is actually the town acting, I'm sorry, I have to look at you when I do that. The town acting and putting forth their agreement that they are giving certain authority to the community housing board to act in certain ways.
Yeah.
So it's not just language that would be here, but language that would have to be part of a resolution that the town would, so it's understood that they don't have to make a decision on every doorknob or something along the way.
But if we need
So
to
that you don't
approve
get-
like a new.
Right, there, I don't know
Yeah.
exactly how you would phrase it today, but it's not just what would be here. It would be something that the town board would have to actually
No.
act on themselves.
There's going to be a secondary agreement once we
There
accept
is-
the RFP.
there is gonna be.
There's gonna be a management agreement that Miriam's
Yeah.
already working on, and a lease agreement, but there's still going to have to be things that,
And I think it's good, we don't have to have that fleshed out now.
no,
But I
absolutely
think,
not.
but I think just even these larger things of just like defining, like, even in this process,
Yeah.
like, my gut is also just because you guys paid us, like, every question that comes in probably doesn't need to be bubbled up to the town. Now, some of them will, some of the bigger ones will need to be brought up, but some of the smaller ones will be easily answered on the community housing. That just feels operationally
Yeah.
like it makes sense. And so how do we reflect
Mhm.
that spirit of maybe the small, that we could decide what that de minimis stuff is, that, obviously that would be a discussion that we would have, but to think about like, that's how we're imagining it, but since we're building this RFP, are we the primary contact? And then when something is beyond us, I mean, obviously you guys would be on all the emails, so it's not like it's a surprise. But just like, oh, but I don't want every contractor blowing up the town board with every single question. So how do we
Mhm.
work that in?
The other thing is, in year 15,
Mhm.
I mean, doesn't the town have to have an employee at some point do an audit to make sure that the landlord is complying with?
Well, so-
income
Yeah, this is a great
thing?
question.
So isn't there sort of a town employee role here?
Well, there is gonna be, and that'll, Amber, we've discussed this before, of just like, that'll be in the management agreement with basically, there'll be audits. So probably it wouldn't be a town employee, it'll probably, my gut feeling, it would be like an accountant or something like that, contracted by the town for us, that will like oversee auditing. And so
But it
whatever,
wouldn't just be financial auditing, I think, and that was part of David's point. It would be sort of a combination of a financial audit and a compliance audit.
You know, we might do an IMA with
Yeah.
other towns. We have
Capital spending and.
Yeah.
housing authority.
Well, the question is a sponsor, are we talking about a sponsor for the development, in which case changing doorknob, which, you don't need someone. And then once it's up and running, you sort of need someone to review and go look at it and make sure everything's been done according to oil. So.
yeah, and I think,
Seems like at that point, that's a town employee, not a, not a committee.
yeah, and that's what we have to kind of think about, because I don't think that there's, my gut is there's not the bandwidth with the towns, and maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But my gut is that there maybe not be the bandwidth, so is it like some kind of like contractor or with it, you know what I mean? Like, we'll have to figure that part of it out when we get to the management agreement, but we do have to think about it. We've got some time, we don't be out, but we need to think about how we're gonna oversee that. The other thing that so obviously this is like a big section for us. The other thing that I wanted to point out is, at least for a period of 10 years, what the heck? They're gonna put all that money in it and they're just gonna get it for 10 years?
That seems way
So-
too short.
I can see, my thought of that is like, I can see that you might want to look back every 10 years, because obviously, who knows what's happening in the world, where you can renegotiate it every 10 years. But I felt like that
But
math doesn't math at 10
if
years.
you don't renew the lease, then I built this, put capital in, and now it's yours.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that
I mean, first off, you can't get a mortgage on that, so.
Yeah.
I think you're looking at something like a 50-year lease with renewal rights for, 2 50-year renewal rights, and. If you want to get rid of them, you're gonna get rid of them on operating deficiencies, not on terming out the,
or like, I think, or I think there's other language, like you could put in like a 50-year lease with like a option to, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like the language you would use, but like operate to like basically relook at it or buy each other out, like where either party could.
I would see that as part of the lease and or management agreement, because you would also have defaults in there
Yeah.
that could trigger certain things. But my gut is that it would be a 40-year lease. That's not an uncommon lease. 99 is a very common one also, but I don't think we would want to do a 99.
I don't think we would, I would think at least,
Yeah.
I don't see how the math would work for them
Right, I think,
Yeah.
but I think a 40 which is common.
yeah, but I think we're all agreed that a 10-year lease
Is
is not it, so we can we can go
The
again. and-
problem with 40 is if you're on a 25-year M and you want to refinance 13 years in, you know,
Oh, got it.
you're limiting what you can do. And so I think the financing part of this, that's the part that hit me, that you're limiting someone's ability to finance the property.
Got it. Okay, well, let's go back and know that it's gonna be more than that, and maybe everybody think about the reasons for whatever number that they have that's more than 10.
Just a little toss out there.
Yeah.
I've gone to a meeting. And they have specific language if we're getting any money from them for housing on what the lease terms have to be. And
Right.
it may need to be 99 years or something else, but they are willing to, once we get closer to finalizing this, giving them a copy just to see whether or not this is in compliance with anything that they would offer funding for.
Right, and so, but when that's what my plan is with Stephanie from the county, but we just needed to get closer
Yes,
than
yes,
this.
exactly.
Yeah, but I'm in close contact with her about it, yeah.
Do you want to leave this for now? Do you want to leave the period of 10 years, just want to leave it blank for now?
I would be
Yeah.
blank.
Yeah, so let's come back to it. So we need to think about so also I just want to say we're not going to get through all this. So, but let's try to at least get through the next page, right?
A
right.
process question then on that? Should we have another meeting between now and our next meeting to get our comments all together and come back? So
I
that
think, well, we can try.
Yeah, I would think another meeting would be helpful, not just to do it all in writing, but also the
Yeah,
discussion.
no,
I think
we're
is
gonna have to
good.
do it. I mean, here's the thing is we're stuck because we don't have there's stuff that we need to have before we can move forward, so we don't even,
Right,
even
but-
if we were 100% done, we need the surveys, which we don't
Right,
have.
but it's still, I mean, if we could come back together in 2 weeks or
Well,
3 weeks,
I'll put it out by email and see if people are available. The summer's a hard
I
time.
know you have.
Yeah, so
you're-
let's figure it
You're
out.
gonna be
Yeah.
gone too.
Okay, so let's keep going. It is the intention of the town of Shelter Island and the housing boards to ease the acute shortage of attainable housing on Shelter Island. Therefore, the town and housing board wish to create a mix of housing units as described at the 3 sites described above, yearly median income data sets, blah, 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 blah. And then she was like, I don't know what the earning is for the area median income. And so I would say, I believe it's 80 to 120, but I will double check the grant. My thought would be is we had talked about, and this is something for all of us to think about, of who this was gonna serve. And so I would want to make sure that the range that we put in here was consistent with the county money, right? But also, it can't be higher, it could be lower. But anyway, just for everyone's thinking, I think that it was like the 80 to 120 is what we had talked about. I'd seen like 80 to 130, but it feels like somewhere in there. So what I'm gonna do is I will come back with the exact county numbers and we can just put that in there for now. If anybody
Yep.
feels away or feels we need to revisit that, let's come back to it. But my thought is to use the county guidelines for now. We can bump it lower, but we can't bump it higher. Subject to, yes, Benjamin?
I'm just wondering, I mean,
Yeah,
just a grammar thing. Attainable. I wonder if that is the right word instead of obtainable. But
instead of,
OB, I'll look into it. Attainable means something a little different, but.
well, there's a lot of grammar.
Yeah.
It's
And-
And this,
euphemism.
this wasn't proofed.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
This was, I get it out.
Yeah. Uh, uh, anyone earning subject to HUD, fair housing, funding sources, laws, rules, and regulations qualify. Please note that the selected offer must lease the units once construction in accordance with all federal, state, local laws, regulations, written guidelines as provided by the town of Shelter Island and/or the housing board. We intend to create a housing model that can be replicated at other locations, which is energy efficient, affordable in perpetuity, quality, constructive, and comports with local scale and aesthetic. I'm gonna just try to get to the end of page 3 before our brains slip out of our heads. So the project overview and relevant information. Project development by offer selected, subject properties owned by Town of Shelter Island, subject properties leased to offer, selected for a term of 10 years. Nope. Plus a period of construction to run coterminous with the management agreement. Okay, so this is the other thing that she put in, that lease payments will be based on X times the rent roll. So the idea is that they would not pay us a lease. Right? Because I think she misunderstood. I think this might be left over from other language, because the developer would not pay the town to lease the property. You know what I mean? It would be like $1 or something. You know what I mean? Because like, how does the math work?
But $10 another good consideration.
Yes. As a standard in the industry, blah, 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 blah. So that language, I think, slipped in here, but can't be there. Management company will submit for approval standard tenant lease, which shall include the appropriate provisions for income verification. Management of constructed subject properties by offer selected, subject to covenants, clawback, and early termination. Management agreement must run coterminous with the lease on subject properties. Both lease and management agreement will contain cross defaults, clawbacks, early terminations, provisions for the failure to perform, as well as indemnity and hold harmless provisions in favor of the town and housing board. So maybe if you did that to 50. Oh, yeah.
Just one thing on the lease payment. I saw that and thought that was silly as well, but the one thing I would say is I've seen some instances where a ground lease payment is employed to as a lever to if the property's not run appropriately and tries to get litigious, and is it potential to it's free as long as you run it appropriately, and if you're not.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
So have a switch, which obviously would be a hammer on somebody to play nice.
It's tricky. I like it, dude.
I like that.
Also, well, I mean, if you end up in court, it's gonna cost money. So should the lease payment be something that can build up a little bit of a reserve to pay
Well,
those costs?
Here's the thing though, Benjamin. The project doesn't work financially if the person who has to build it has to pay us a lease payment.
I'm talking small, I mean, $1 is.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, I think they would,
Yeah.
there would have to be, with the lease, there'd have to be some, but like,
Yeah, it's gotta
It
be
would have
some
to be-
consideration.
it'd have to be like $10 or
Yeah.
$1 or something, like, but I don't know if I don't think you're gonna build up enough cash to be paying for lawyers. I mean,
Yeah. Well, over the years, if it's $1,000 a month, that's 12,000 a year.
but yeah, I mean, there's no way that the math barely works.
The
So there's
project has negative.
Yeah, there's not $1,000 in there to pay for a lease.
Okay, never mind.
Let me think.
Yeah. the sponsor will require a yearly review of the offer and a sit-down meeting with the principals to review progress with construction management and leasing after construction, and income and expense reporting submissions. That seems right. And then in the management agreement, that would be where we would be doing the auditing of the leases and the financials and the compliance. All right, so I'm just gonna talk a little bit about what's in the rest of it. We will get this up on the website. Be gentle with the grammar. And, you know, is that the housing, we talk about the following to be addressed in your responses, existing conditions, zoning compliance, building envelope, all this good stuff. You know, we have some things that we would like to have. So it says, please address in your response. I just want everybody to know that we're thinking about soundproofing in between floors, laundry, washer dryer, dishwashers, outdoor space, outdoor recreation areas, egress, dark sky compliant, impact, you know, windows, superior finishes, landscaping with native vegetation, rain gardens, solar units. Do we want to think about on-demand hot water, universal EV charging, modular construction, universal Wi-Fi? So just for everyone to know that we're kind of thinking about wetlands, we're thinking about kind of all the things in this. I'm going to go into expectations, and then next time we'll start with scope of services. So expectations, the committee is seeking an all-inclusive full-service development property management firm that is immediately available to commence pre-development activities within 10 days of the contract. Oh, I love it. Notice, however, offer may be one or two firms, the second representing management, so long as that separate entity and all principals are identified in the response, and such firm answers all the questions applicable to the first firm as set forth herein, except with respect to the architectural and design components, but tailors its responses to the experience and fee quote for its services as a management company. The selection of the management team must be acceptable to the housing board and the town for its sole and absolute discretion to complete the construction of this property within 30 months. Design must adhere to Shelter Island architectural vernacular, meet New York State stretch code. The town of Shelter Island embraces inclusive and universal design and net zero energy facility. Proposers strongly encouraged to use AIA design build family of documents.
I assume the housing fund reference is a typo.
Yeah, oh, there's lots of, there's so many,
Yeah.
there's so many.
Okay.
So I think, so we got through a lot. So let's start next meeting with scope of services. But I just wanted to kind of get the overview out there and get everybody's braining on this. And I will send out, I'll send out the notes that we have from here, or I'll start kind of putting those together. If you have additional notes, gosh, send them to me. Let's do it. Let's start putting them together.
Yep.
And then what my thought is that we will go through and decide, because I'm sure many, you know, one of us might say 50 years, the other one might say 40 and all those things. So we'll need to decide on the edits that we're bringing to Miriam. So we'll do that. We definitely need another meeting, so we'll figure that out. But, you know, things to think about. Does anybody, oh, go ahead.
I had just a question. Amber, at the last month, I asked about property taxes and whether these developments would be on the tax roll. Was that, can anybody answer that?
And back on the list. I got caught up with Judith on other topics and never got that.
I mean, the property's still gonna be owned by the town.
Yeah, right now they're not on the tax rolls. Land is owned.
The town's gonna own the land, but the improvements will be owned by the developer.
No, they're gonna be, well, yeah, they will be, I guess.
A great question.
So
Yeah,
I
my apologies.
assume it's easier if it's not. I mean, the finances are already so tight, I think property taxes, to the extent that it's not. Or if it's done through a 501c3 or something. So you're not paying property taxes.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, property taxes certainly will defeat the purpose of this.
Yes.
Um,
I'm gonna move to, do we have any old business?
Nothing we didn't cover. I mean,
Yeah. Oh, the only thing is I didn't, I need to go back to the housing grant person, which I just saw when I did the thing. I will do that for our next meeting.
I do have a question, but.
Yeah,
It's so random. Okay, universal EV charging station.
yeah.
I mean, this island does not have a level 3 DC fast charger. It could possibly be a source of income for this or for the developer. If, we should see if I mean, it's in here, it says it right there,
Mhm.
but level 2 chargers don't really generate any money. When an EV fast charger possibly could, I just don't know what the financial implications, what does it cost to install it? And what you can expect in revenue side, but it's something to think about.
yeah,
I think that's interesting idea. New business?
nope.
Nope. Okay, cool. Does anybody, and does anybody here in the audience or on, is it Gordon or Pam? Do you guys, anybody have a question?
Pam does.
Pam?
Yeah, actually, I
Warren
don't
does.
have a question. I don't
Oh.
have a question. I'd just like to commend you all on the really hard work you're doing putting this together. It's amazing, and I'm always in awe of the progress that you're making moving forward with this affordable housing, and I thank you for that.
Oh, thanks,
Thank you.
Pam.
Thank you, Pam.
Appreciate it.
It's complicated.
Yeah,
Ultimately, the buildings belong to the town.
no, the buildings would,
So we have.
Yes, ultimately. Because
the land belongs to the town and the buildings technically, I'm not a lawyer, but my understanding is that the buildings belong to it's like a weird, it's a weird setup
To the developer.
to the developer.
After that current.
But it reverts.
timeframe, the buildings revert to the town?
Well, I think we would have a option to,
You would have an option to
Buy them or-
buy them. And so part of the management agreement is what you hear us talking about, the 50-year and the whatever is what, it has to be a lease term that makes sense for them so that they can get their financing.
You've heard me talk about this with construction.
Yeah.
It's like, there is no, just because you're gonna get dirty with this, meaning someone's gonna be taking those calls from those tenants, okay? It's a big undertaking.
Yeah.
You're gonna need additional personnel, even obviously during the construction phase, and as you get these drawings done, I'm assuming they're going out, you're hiring an architectural company to finalize the plans?
Yeah. So, okay, there's a bunch there. So let me try to, so there's, the management will be, the part of the RFP is to handle the management, right? Now, is there always going to be overflow if somebody doesn't like the way that they're managing or goes to the wrong person? Yeah, 100%, which is the part that we're talking about is what is the part, we don't want everything to bubble up to the town board, but the big stuff should, so how do we figure out how that's like the overflow from the management company or the questions from the management company or about the management company, how do we handle that? We got to figure that out in the management agreement. So that's what we're already trying to figure out, which is which is this part. Yeah. And then we have, we've contracted with architects. So we have the plans. And so we need the survey so that we can do the site, so that they can do the next step, which is like put the plans on the site.
Physical plans, when you have them, they're gonna be there.
They're done.
They're done?
Yeah, so we,
For the
home,
construction, for the building.
yeah, yeah.
And so there was you had somebody, you had an
We
architect.
purchased them.
We purchased
Yeah,
them.
they're-
Yeah, that was,
They have to be looked at.
no, yeah, so yes, they absolutely have to be looked at, and they also have to be positioned. There's like, obviously you don't get the plans and then you're just like, ah, cool, we're done, right? There's like a bunch that happens after that, right? So there's part of it that will happen on our side, right? With like making sure that they're like on the site, and then there also will be part of it that will be on the other side of the RFP that the developer will handle, right? So because and that's part of like our gaining understanding of just like, there is this, I'm gonna try to explain it the best I can, but we have to separate the design and the build, right? And so obviously we're doing, because we're trying to be prudent with our resources, doing as little as like that as we need to on our side, because also any of those changes or modifications that we talked about making to the plan, the person that we contract with then has to execute. So it seems only fair that they're involved in, if we say the walls have to be X thick or something like that, and then they have to pay for it and execute it, there's part of it that's going to naturally be on that side of it. So a lot of it is we're going to be guided by understanding what the heck the law is, right? So there's just legal requirements of like, we have to have this part done. But yeah, no, it's absolutely complicated. Yeah. That's why we have so many lawyers.
I'd be curious when you get the drawings together,
Mhm.
how specific, how detailed they are. Meaning, a window, is it, we spell, do we spell out specifically all the components, or is it left to, it's like with lumber, is it Doug fir or is it spruce? I mean, I guess that's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah. So
Same thing goes with roofing materials, and insulation, and, all of those components that make it up. Will the public be able to see that piece of it at some given time before it goes out for an RFP, or is it?
great question. So again, part of it is our understanding of what's kind of what's on the design side and what's considered part of the build side. So our purpose in having all these lawyers is to help us accurately understand what is part and parcel of the design side, and everything that we are going to specify as part of the design side will be made available to the public and part of the public RFP. All that's going to be, open.
I know I've said this before,
Uh-huh.
like in every construction project, okay,
Uh-huh.
and particularly with municipalities, okay, these extras each out. Okay?
Yeah.
And you don't have those things really spelled out, okay, people do contracts for cost because they know there's gonna be a whole lot of screw ups along the way, okay? And and it'll be just like the school, that's a big project they have going on, okay? And, but anyhow, I guess I'm looking at it as an individual and saying, wow, it's like, it's not like building a home, it's building 10 homes, okay? And you know what it's like, anybody who's built or done an addition or anything like that, you know how complicated it gets. And it's complicated, I mean, it's very complicated.
Yeah.
You're gonna need some good people to work with you on payroll of some way that they're overseeing. I mean, even the payments, how contractors get paid, it's.
So here's the important part. We are not paying any of this. So part of the way this is set up is that however the winner of the RFP has to build it with their money and then gets paid back from the rent rolls.
You just want to make sure that they build it according to how you want it to be.
Exactly, but here's the other part of it is we also have, so we have to be mindful to give it, we want it to be quality, right? We want it to be, so those are the parameters that we're putting in place and that we're being advised on, is to make sure that there's enough guardrails in there that if we want to build something that's good, right? That people want to live in, but also, you know, to borrow my husband, you know, we don't want to be like in their shorts and just be like, well, you can't use Douglas fir, you got to use this and you got to, you know, like there needs to be, if they're going to actually build it, they get to, you know, they're going to build it, right? So we're going to give them parameters of, you know, it needs to meet these standards, and then they can figure out how they want to meet those standards, but we're not going to be specifying the windows have to be.
Oh, we do. The windows are specified in District 400 or.
Yeah,
or
but, you know,
above. I mean, we have, there's the list.
There's some real specifications in there, but you know,
And the
like we
plan-
can't say like, oh, well, we want them to have white frames in them and that they feel a way that there should be black frame windows and that, you know, I mean, we can't, there's a certain.
Bran, how detailed are the plans as far as material?
I'll share them with you. I mean, yeah, I'll share them with you.
Yeah, and they will be made public. They'll be, well, actually, I don't know, actually, I don't think we could have the high level ones.
I don't know.
Because
I don't
or
know how we
else,
do it.
the only thing that would be tricky is we can't make, because or else
Right, we
then
can't
somebody
give them
could
away.
copy and they would be copying and we would be violating. So we gotta just figure out,
How to do
we
that.
wanna be transparent, but also I don't wanna
Yes.
like get in trouble with the architects of just like, let me publish your plan so
Well,
everybody can see them.
I guess I'm asking the question on the basis of like, do the building plans specify the types of windows and materials?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're just like any kind of building plans you've seen that have, you know, detailed drawings and, you know, it says everything in there.
The other thing you might want to think, you would really have some talented people over in the building department, you know, great culture. It would be good for their eyeballs to go through it, and maybe they may be able to make some suggestions to you.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
but good job. It's a lot of work.
Yeah,
It's
no,
a
yeah.
lot of work.
Yeah, it's been a massive amount of work, just to even get to this point. I mean, this has been 2 years of heavy lifting to just even make it to having this piece of paper in front of us. How many hours? I don't even know. Let's go home.
Sounds good.
Motion to get back out?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, excellent.
Second it.
Oh, excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye. Thanks for the good time,
I
you guys.
apologize, I just wanted to, are we having another meeting before the other meeting finished? This?
I'm gonna email and see when everybody's available, so we'll pick it up by email.
But we should expect something prior to the August meeting.